with you. It doesn't. I don't think it has anything to do with Little League baseball. It has to do with these people trying to sort of promote their weapons. But I guess the question is, for the Little League teams, for the players, for their families, is this an issue? In other words, yes, it doesn't have anything to do with Little League baseball. But if you're a parent of somebody who's in this Little League, is this something to be outraged about, or do you say, look, it's important. Little League baseball is so important that however we raise money, whether it's through selling weapons or I don't know, maybe some parents want to sell themselves. I mean, whatever it is, as long as we're funding a good cause. So at the end of the day, that's all that matters.
Well, David, I really think that it depends on where you live for this one. If I was in Little League when I was younger, and most I guess our teams were funded by local organizations and businesses who wanted to support the act of Little League and I guess the sense of community that it brings and getting kids out to do something active. But if you had proposed that, we can't get uniforms this year, why don't we bring some guns into the mix? I think you would get a different reaction in the Northeast in Philadelphia as opposed to somewhere down south where, for better or worse, guns are just part of their culture. I have a family member who lives, not even in the deep south, but in Maryland, who my younger cousin was trained from a young age to be able to use a shotgun. They use it for hunting and for skeet shooting, but it's just ingrained in their culture. And what people take it as kind of they're trying to take a piece of their culture. And obviously I have different opinions on that. Especially people say, all right, maybe we need to defend our home from an intruder. My thought is, if someone breaks into my house, I'm not going to kill them. I'm just opposed to that. But I think a lot of people would say, it's my life or theirs.
Look, it's a good point. And where I come down on all of this is, you know what? If my kids, everyone knows I've got a kid coming in the spring, 9 years from now, if the kid wants to play Little League baseball, he or she, great. But if I were to find out that the Little League was being sponsored or somehow needed to get money and was willing to sell weapons in order to raise money for the Little League, I would say, no, wait a second. Let's try to do some other means of raising funds for the league. That, yes, Little League is so important that we should do whatever we can to make sure it's funded. But I think what we can do is to fund it through local businesses, or maybe some of us parents who have more means than others can pay more or sponsor a team. The idea that we would have our Little League tied in with an assault weapon, I just find, at least for me, is reprehensible, and I would do everything I could to change it. I can understand, though, that in a small town, perhaps a town that's not very well off, like Atwood, Hammond, Illinois, it's their choice. And if they feel like this is something they have to do in order to be able to fund Little League baseball with all the wonderful things that Little League imparts upon kids, that's their choice. It's just a different choice than I would make. But Rich, to your point, it depends, I suppose, on geography and where you live and what sort of the local culture is. And but I do think it says something about our culture in some areas of our country that they do this without sort of batting an eye. That in some places of our country, this is just seen as, well, it's a good fundraiser. Of course, you're going to raffle something like a gun, then you'll raise some money.
Whatever happened to the bake sale?
Yeah, well, exactly. And in our bake sale, we raised a little bit of money for a high school tennis team and band, or we sold fruit cakes or candles. That was in the 1980s, is we sold candles. In any case, well, interesting discussion. We'll see what happens in Illinois. Who knows? Maybe somebody will step forward and say, look, let's not try to raise money through a gun. Maybe a local business or somebody will come in and sort of be a better angel and fund a Little League of Atwood, Hammond, Illinois. Coming up next hour, Daniel Marins is going to take us through the hour. A lot coming up. In fact, Daniel's going to talk about some of the too big to fail banks and also some of the greatest hits from CPAC, the Conservative Conference in Washington. What a scene that one was this week in D.C. And then, of course, in our third hour, Alan Rosenblatt will join us to talk about social media. And we've got a fascinating one in terms of our activists of the week. So stay with us. You're listening and you're watching the Take Action News on We Act Radio. Remember to get your March Madness brackets ready. We will talk about those before the end of the show, and I'll give you some inside information. Take Action News continues after this.